Thanks for tuning in here on 13 WMAZ Plus for a look at your extended forecast. Have a couple things to go over, and the big thing is we did have some rain over the course of this weekend. So we're going to start off with that and talk about how much rain we specifically did see. I'll go ahead and give you a bit of a tease. It was definitely not too much. Here's a look at your 5-day rainfall totals. I could have done the 48-hour totals, but just wanted to cover the bases for maybe any sprinkles or isolated showers that I possibly missed over the course of the last 5 days. At the very most, we saw some totals that were close to 6 inches, just over 1.5 inches of rain north of I-16 in the corner of Twiggs County, just shy of 2 inches down in southern Wilcox County. And where you're starting to see some of those darker blue areas, that's getting above about 1/4 inch, somewhere in between 1/4 inch and 1 inch of rain. Most of central Georgia has this light blue color, which is going to indicate maybe just a trace of rain, maybe a couple 1/100ths of an inch, or you might have had totals like Milledgeville, somewhere around 1/10 of an inch. Just a trace of rain in Dublin, 2/10 of an inch down in Eastman, Warner Robins, just a trace, and up here in downtown Macon, 2/10 of an inch of rain. Just giving you a good idea that yes, most areas did receive rain unless you lived in portions of western Hancock County, up into northern Putnam County, and down in this corner of Lawrence, Johnson, and Treutlen counties. Those are the only areas that look like they were rain free. But if you did get rain, you more than likely just saw a couple 1/10 of an inch of rain, which is not a good enough amount in order to maybe put a dent in the dry conditions that we've had over recently. So in terms of Middle Georgia Regional Airport specifically, let's talk about your rainfall for the month of October itself. So the 5th, which was this past Sunday, we recorded just under 1/10 of an inch of rain at 9/100ths of an inch. It's at least a start. That's about all we can ask for because October, on average, is a pretty dry month. And yesterday wasn't the only day that we had rain chances in the forecast. We have a few more later on Monday afternoon, and we have some more around Wednesday into Thursday that hopefully will continue to steadily increase that number at the top for the total and hopefully put us pretty close to the average of just over 2¼ of an inch of rain for what we normally see in October. Don't think we'll get anywhere close to that 9-inch mark that we set back in 1959, but maybe we could shoot for the stars. We'll hope for the best. Overall, some dry conditions have continued to be very widespread, and as of the latest update with the drought monitor that we got released last Thursday, but this is the data as of last Tuesday, you can see that the moderate drought got expanded into south and southeastern central Georgia. Everyone else under abnormally dry conditions with the exception of western Upson County, who is also under those moderate drought conditions. And in terms of what that exactly means, it's a step above the abnormally dry conditions. Abnormally dry just means it's been quite a while without some rain in the forecast. But once you start to get into drought criteria, that's where you start to have some impacts in terms of your vegetation, specifically gardens, lawns, and flowers. They're going to require more water throughout the day. Now, Mother Nature not sending us too much sunshine is going to help keep the temperatures a little bit lower, and we do have some scattered rain chances once again. So you could look out with a little bit of natural hydration. Overall, I would still make plans to go out in the mornings or the evenings to water your flower pots and water any of the plants that you have in your garden. As far as lawns go, they're built to withstand some of these dry conditions. The grass will start to go dormant, and you're actually supposed to water your lawn less frequently or not at all when you're under some drought conditions because grass can help store up some water, so it's built to withstand those very dry periods that we do have in the forecast. But the mornings and the evenings specifically are when you want to go out and water your gardens and your flower pots because you're going to limit the amount of time of evaporation. So you water your flowers or your gardens in the morning, and then obviously there's not too much sunshine that is up in the forecast thus far. And it's still going to take some time for the sun to get high enough in the sky in order to lead to some evaporation. And as you go into the evening hours closer to sunset, of course, it will be going into nighttime fairly shortly. You're going to limit how much evaporation can occur with that as well. Stream and pond levels are also going to be lower, resulting in warmer water temperatures. That's what you typically have when you have a lot of shallow water. And then tree stress can begin, mainly just indicated by the premature leaf fall that we've seen so far. You've probably seen your fair share of leaves all across your garden, or all across your lawn, all across the road. That's actually just going to be attributed to those trees needing some water. We haven't really hit that peak fall foliage just yet. It's actually going to be into November when we start to see those yellow, orange, and red leaves finally start to fall from the treetops onto the ground. So anything that we're seeing right now in terms of leaves scattered all across the ground, that is due to the dry conditions that we've had. Stunted growth, also another symptom that you can see with tree stress, and there's a number of other ones, but I won't get too specific into those. Overall, we just need the rain that Mother Nature was very kind enough to give us a little bit of yesterday, but definitely not enough. The good news is not our last opportunity for rain as we go across the work week. A few opportunities of catching a couple of scattered showers, maybe even a storm, which wouldn't be a bad thing. We know heavy rainfall rates are associated with storms, and we're not looking at anything in the way of severe criteria. It would be more of a low-end thunderstorm, just a few rumbles of thunder, some heavy rain, maybe a couple of gusty winds, but nothing that's going to be damaging per se. A cold front will be coming through Wednesday and into Thursday. It's going to make a pretty slow passage through central Georgia. We'll talk about what that means. And cooler and drier air funnels in as we head into the weekend ahead. It is going to be the most profound cooler temperatures and drier air that we have seen so far in the fall season. And of course, finally giving us our best taste of that fall-like weather. Here's a walk around the quad. Gloomy skies all across everywhere that we have a sky cam. Downtown Dublin, downtown Macon, and in Houston County at the Georgia National Fair, which just got day 5 kicked off. And I think those folks are very wise for heading out to the fair earlier today when the rain chances are a little bit lower as compared to this afternoon. And then in Warner Robins, just north of Perry, we can see that not too many commuters that are out on the roads because fall break is going on over for Houston County schools, but I imagine folks at CGTC still do have that class in session. Temperature-wise, low 70s all across the temperature map. At the warmest, I see a 76 in Cochran and another 76 in Warner Robins, but your temperatures have been very reluctant to warm up. They are already getting to around that criteria of what the numbers were yesterday for the high temperatures. In fact, we hit a high temperature of 76 specifically in Macon, only 1 degree off that number thus far today. So plenty of 70s down in the south and the southeast, and 80 to the southwest in Panama City, 84 in New Orleans, pair of 82s back in southern Texas. So New Orleans, once again, the warmest temperature that we see in the eastern United States. The dew point temperatures have continued to steadily rise along with those actual temperatures. The dark green color continues to be very widespread, so we've continued to bring that humidity back day by day, and we saw a dew point temperature map a lot like this during yesterday afternoon, and that will once again be the case today. Going to be on the warmer side and going to be pretty muggy in the forecast, not only today, maybe a slight downtick tomorrow, but we'll pick the humidity back up as we go into Wednesday. Here's a look at the humidity levels in the south and the southeast. Many of our neighboring states are really matching the picture that we see here in the state of Georgia. Northernmost cities are dealing with some drier air, and then as you move down towards the south, closer to the Atlantic, closer to the Gulf, that's where your more humid environments are going to exist. Your feels like temperatures, not too much difference right now. They're still hanging out, or your actual temperatures still hanging out in the low 70s. So you have to start hitting the upper 70s near the 80-degree mark before you start to see a difference between the feels like numbers and the actual temperatures. And there still continues to be a steady breeze. That has been the case for about a week now here in central Georgia. So far, as we are into the 11 a.m. hour, maybe a breeze sustained anywhere from 5 to maybe 12 or 13 miles per hour. So 5 to 15 miles per hour, that's kind of the range that you will see the sustained winds throughout today. The occasional gusts are going to be a couple miles an hour higher than what those numbers do read. So here's a look at your meteogram. Peaking at 81 degrees later this afternoon. That's going to be for the combination of cloud cover and a couple of rain showers in the forecast. I do believe a couple areas are going to get sufficient sunshine. They'll see some numbers that are maybe even into the mid-80s later this afternoon, but that's going to be mainly if you don't catch any of the scattered shower chances. 76 for a high yesterday, like I mentioned. Your morning low temperature 64 yesterday. That would have felt a lot better than our morning lows this morning, where I think the lowest number I saw was a 67, and most numbers were hovering right there around the 70-degree mark. So below average in terms of the afternoon high temperatures, above average in terms of your morning low temperatures. Take a look at how much that morning low temperature has dipped down to. 58 degrees. That's supposed to be the normal this time of year, but I did promise you some cooler weather as we head into the weekend. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. And the 9/100ths of an inch of rain that we got yesterday maybe didn't allow this number to drop as much, hovering just below 3.5 inches below or above where we should be at this point in 2025. Sunrise Sunday morning was at 7:32 and sunset was at 7:14. We are fastly approaching our last 7 p.m. sunset before we'll start to see the sunset before the 7 p.m. hour and eventually before the 6 p.m. hour as we head into November. So the gloomy start to today will hold on for the next couple of hours, but we'll have some peaks of sunshine, which I do believe is going to lead into a warm up into the mid 80s, 85 for a high temperature compared to your average high of 82 degrees this time of year. And also this warm up will contribute to a few scattered shower chances because you have warm temperatures, you have plenty of moisture in the forecast. And another note, once again, we want to talk about this wind box because obviously we don't typically talk about it too much, but given how windy we have been as of recently, yes, once again, the potential for some wind gusts up to 25 miles per hour possible, but I think it's only going to be a small window of the afternoon time frame, which I'll show you once we get to that graphic. Satellite and radar picture has remained quite messy and quite gloomy so far to start. There are some breaks in cloud cover here and there, but we also do have a couple of isolated showers beginning to move in. Right now, just around the Wrightsville area in Johnson County, maybe a few more sprinkles in southeast Lawrence County, and scattered about maybe our northernmost counties. But it is very, very isolated, whatever you do see in the way of rain, and it has been that way so far throughout the morning hours. We continue to see more showers down to the south of us, maybe even a couple of low-end thunderstorms near the Jacksonville area. But overall, it is a messy picture across all of the southeast, even more so down to the west and southwest of us. Right there on the Louisiana and Mississippi state lines, you're starting to see some flash flood warnings. And that's going to be attributed to a low pressure center that has established itself along a very weak stationary boundary. But the big thing with this is sending the surge of moisture inland across the northern Gulf into states like Louisiana, Mississippi, and that rain is actually spanning pretty far all the way up across Tennessee and Kentucky, even into portions of Indiana, Ohio, maybe even into West Virginia. But we continue to have this high pressure that's trying to funnel in some drier air from the north and the northeast, and that's why you do see a dry atmosphere in Virginia, upstate North Carolina, even into portions of South Carolina and North Georgia. But obviously it's kind of a clash of that moisture and that drier air that exists farther to the southwest of us, and then the drier air up to the north and the northeast. But you did get a glimpse of that front way away. We're going to be talking about that as we go into the end of Future View. But here's a couple hours in advance going into 3 o'clock this afternoon. Scattered showers, scattered cloud cover. There will be some peaks of sunshine. And like I said, I think that's going to lead to pretty good scattered shower coverage as we go into this afternoon, into the evening hours. We're actually still holding on to some rain chances past dinner time around 8 p.m. Maybe one of those nights that you want to order in or just cook whatever groceries that you do have in the fridge. And then as we progress farther and farther into the nighttime hours, we will finally clear out, welcoming back some high-level cloud cover for the start of your Tuesday morning. But Tuesday is a bit different than what we do have for Monday and for Wednesday. Rain chances are looking slim to none, maybe a 10% chance of an isolated sprinkle shower, maybe a couple of showers that try to creep into our southeastern counties later tomorrow afternoon. Overall, I think Tuesday is going to be a mostly dry and a mostly sunny day. So if you're searching for a day in the near future to head out to the Georgia National Fair, Tuesday is going to be your best bet at staying dry and not needing the rain jacket whatsoever. Now let's go into Wednesday. Wednesday morning, we do see a few clouds creeping in, but you're already starting to see some scattered showers and even a couple of storms that could be embedded within those. Like I said, not really seeing anything in the way of severe weather. It does look like we're going to have maybe a couple rumbles of thunder and some pockets where the rainfall is a bit locally heavier. This will be driven by a frontal boundary that's going to begin its push into the state of Georgia starting early on Wednesday. But as we go throughout Wednesday, it's going to take its time. It's going to kind of stall for a bit as it pushes across central Georgia. We'll have scattered shower chances, maybe even a few storms as we go into your Wednesday evening. Now this latest model run of Future View actually hints that we'll actually see some more rain start to pop up as we go into the overnight hours. I'm not putting too much stock into that. Like we always tell you, you go into the overnight hours, you're a lot cooler, and that's obviously not going to be as ripe of an environment or more conducive environment for some heavier rainfall. But whatever we can get in the way of maybe some pockets of steady and heavy rain, it will be a welcome sight no matter how we get it, because we have been really dry. So we'd rather trade one really messy day in the forecast that would really give us some good alleviation of the dry conditions that we've had, that over maybe a couple of days of the gloomy and dreary weather like we were talking about yesterday, like we're talking about today. Maybe this front can send us some widespread rain chances, maybe totals around an inch or two, pretty widespread across central Georgia, and that would be a very welcome sight. So here's a look at your fair forecast for Monday specifically. Obviously, temperatures already above that number of 73 when the gates did open at 10 a.m. As we go into the afternoon, possible rain, I would say more so some probable rain. The scattered shower chances continue to look pretty good, and I don't think Perry is going to be an exception to those scattered shower chances. Temperatures should crawl into the low 80s for a brief moment in time. If you do catch a rain shower, it will help cool those numbers down back into the 70s. And around closing time, I think as you go to around 9 p.m., maybe stay until 11 p.m. after the main event does close at the fair, but you still have a lot of the rides open until 11 p.m. That's going to be a good time and a dry time to be at the fair, but probably still your fair share of puddles and some wet sidewalks down at the Georgia National Fairgrounds, even going into the nighttime frame. Temperature around 76 as you go into the nighttime hours. Sunset tonight at Perry will be around 7:12 p.m. And like I said, that breeze is going to continue to be a factor. So over the next 3 days, Monday, pretty decent rain chances at about 40%. High temperatures still in the mid 80s tomorrow afternoon. Morning low temperatures somewhere in the mid 60s. And that will be the case once again for Wednesday temperature wise. But then we have a 40% chance of a shower or maybe even a low end thunderstorm as that front begins its push into central Georgia. Now let's go into future view wind gusts. So like I said, it's going to kind of be a small frame of opportunity for those gusty winds. I think it's mainly going to be enveloped with all of those scattered showers, maybe even a couple of storms, or maybe just a few rumbles of thunder. I don't like saying a couple of storms because I really only think we'll see maybe a couple flashes of lightning here and there on the satellite and radar this afternoon. And along with that, maybe only a few rumbles of thunder. But that's where your gusty winds will really be. We have the potential for a gust up to 20, 25 miles per hour. But then after that, we finally move into Tuesday, and this is a very welcome sight. Not too much of a breeze whatsoever each of the next 2 days. So finally, we can hopefully get these breezy conditions out of here besides in localized areas. And then, of course, as the front does begin to drive through, we could see our fair share of gusty winds as soon as 8 a.m. on Thursday. So Thursday morning might be one of those really messy mornings as it's currently standing right now. It does look like our front tries to push through, and then we start to get a bit of a wedge set up. So obviously that northeasterly breeze is back in the forecast, even some pockets of that red shade, which are going to indicate your wind gusts that could even get up to 30 miles per hour. So we'll continue to keep a close eye on what's going on Wednesday night into Thursday morning specifically, but right now future views kind of right outside that range. Once we go into this afternoon and evening, Ben will be able to give you a better picture of what's going on, and Ansley Parker will be helping him out today because our show is at the Georgia National Fairgrounds today. It will be our yearly fair show, so be sure to tune in around 5 o'clock later this afternoon and evening and watch Ben and Lori down there showcasing all the fair fun. In terms of your rainfall totals over the next couple of days, there will still be areas that don't get any rain whatsoever. But if you do luck out, you could have some localized areas that maybe get close to an inch of rain in nature. Highest total we see on one of our cities is half an inch of rain in Sandersville. Don't get locked into what location says what total, just know what these numbers have the potential for. I do believe most areas are going to remain below half an inch of rainfall, but some localized areas will get lucky with maybe about an inch or two of rain, just like I was showing you over the last 5 days that we were talking about. Some areas lucked out like Twiggs County and Wilcox County that got totals around 1 or 2 inches. So your morning low temperatures will continue to be above average for most days throughout the work week. But then you finally see signs of change. Not only getting back below average, but down into the mid 50s for your morning low temperatures on Friday morning, bringing back a bit of that cool and crisp feeling as you walk outside. However, your afternoon high temperatures, they're a little bit earlier to get some of those below average numbers back in the forecast. But this 74 on Thursday, I think, is mainly attributed to the lingering cloud cover and the lingering rain in the forecast. So that's why your high temperature is a bit lower. In terms of the next 3 days, we should have some peaks of sunshine that will allow for some above average temperatures. And then as we move into Friday, the cooler and drier air finally begins to move in behind our frontal boundary. And we'll start to feel the impacts of that drier air as soon as Thursday afternoon. So we're talking about the morning hours on Thursday. Could be a bit of a messy image, but as we go into Thursday afternoon, that front will continue to progress farther to the south, and that drier air will follow in with some of that cooler air. Probably some of the most substantially dry air that we have seen so far in the fall season. It's been a while since we've seen this graphic dip down with dew point temperatures in the 40s, maybe even the upper 40s, whatever 40s there are, it will be a very welcome sight because we know 50s is comfortable and that's already some pretty dry air in the forecast, but we might even be taking it a step farther, and that's going to be very reminiscent of a fall time cold front. So here's what the long range models have to say. This is Thursday morning. Like I mentioned, still a bit of a messy image here in central Georgia and along with areas over to the east. Taking a look at what happens into Thursday night. It looks like rain chances start to clear out, but we still do have some lingering cloud cover in the forecast. But keep an eye on what's going on over here off the Atlantic coast of South Carolina, maybe coastal portions of Georgia. We actually start to see that this boundary looks like it's going to stall just down to the south of us. And there is going to be a low pressure center that establishes itself along this boundary, starts to slide up the boundary. And right now, if it starts interacting with some of that warm Atlantic water off the coast of South and North Carolina, it could gain some organization and have some tropical characteristics. There's no area outlined as of right now. This is just what the GFS and the European models continue to say. But what you need to know is if that does happen and that scenario plays out, right now it looks like all that moisture is just going to ride up the Atlantic coast. Our forecast does remain clear. Starting on Friday into Saturday and Sunday, we may hold on to a brief minuscule sprinkle chance for your Friday afternoon. But overall, I did that to cover the bases until we can get future view in range of it. As of right now, it does look like the drier air is going to dominate, and we are going to lead the way into a clear weekend ahead and continue that pattern into the beginning of next week when many of the kids are heading back to school after fall break. So let's talk about some tropics. We did just mention that area, and I told you it's not a potential area of development whatsoever. But as of this past weekend, we've seen the chances grow for another tropical wave that has now moved off the coast of Africa, a 50% chance of developing over the next 48 hours. So kind of a 50-50 shot if we'll get a named storm over the next 2 days or not. I do believe it's going to be Wednesday at the earliest, but more than likely sometime Thursday into Friday that this system will form into our next named storm, because you see that 70% chance of developing over the next 7 days. Now we could see these chances increase, but this is just where it stands as of right now. Obviously, we got this red shade, which indicates high chances of development. And take a look at how far out this shaded area goes. So number one, it's kind of tighter together than most of these shaded areas that we typically see. There's pretty good agreement that this system is going to continue to move to the west-northwest and eventually up to the northwest. Stop me if you've heard that before, because this is a very similar path to what we've seen most of our tropical systems so far in this hurricane season take. It looks like it's going to kind of clip portions of the Caribbean, the Windward Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, have some possible impacts maybe as far west as Puerto Rico, getting over to Hispaniola, but then it will continue to move up into that portion of the Atlantic Ocean that so many storms have gone. Hurricane Erin, Hurricane Umberto, all of those storms that we've been talking about as of recently that have kind of just taken that northwest curve and eventually up into the north. But once we get an invest area, the GFS does outline a couple spaghetti plots for us, and you will see good agreement amongst all these model runs, except for one that does have it darting all the way across the Caribbean and into Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. But take a look at how widespread these solutions get as you go into the near future. This will be sometime around Thursday into Friday. And it does look like there is a general consensus that this will move up to the north and out into the north and the northeast. So we'll kind of take that curve back out into the Atlantic. And hopefully, fingers crossed, just simply be a fish storm. But it does look like it has a pretty good chance of claiming the next name on the hurricane season list. And that is going to be our J name, which would be Tropical Storm Jerry, and then maybe even possibly Hurricane Jerry if it is to get its act together. And then I keep seeing a bunch of jokes online about what the next name is after Jerry. Yes, that is going to be Karen. We don't have anything right now that does look like it's going to form into Tropical Storm Karen or Hurricane Karen. It is just a name, but we'll continue to keep you posted if we do see our next named storm. I believe we're at 9 named storms so far, so Jerry would make 10, and then Karen would be the 11th named storm of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, because the Pacific is quite active. I believe they're already on O or R on their list. So yes, the Pacific has been quite active so far. Thankfully, I haven't seen too many of those have any impacts to land masses on the western coast of North America or out into the Pacific into Hawaii. So your 7-day forecast is a bit of a tale of two stories. Warm and muggy over the course of the next couple of days with some pretty decent rain chances. 40% is still one of the more impressive rain chances that we've seen as of recently, ever since we had our last cold front come through and send us some better coverage of some rain chances that one day in September. Rain chances are still there on Thursday. We're getting Thursday into a bit of a better picture now. So 20% obviously doesn't correlate the best with the coverage that we did just see over the course of Thursday morning on Future View. We'll continue to fine tune this specifically later today, and I'll have a better idea once I can get the entirety of Thursday in view of Future View as I come in tomorrow morning. One thing is for certain though, you will see the temperatures drop starting on Thursday due to the cloud cover and due to the rain chances. So 74, already feeling some of those cooler temperatures as we go into Thursday afternoon. But I really think that the cooler and drier air that the front is filtering in, that will be known on Friday morning. 56 to walk out the door, 72 in the afternoon. I have that 10% just to cover the bases right now, but if we have 72 paired up with plenty of sunny sky on Friday afternoon and evening, you can't draw up a better football Friday night forecast or a better forecast to welcome in the closing weekend of the fair. And we're going to keep our fingers crossed that we get these rain chances out of the picture on Thursday evening into Thursday night, because I know a lot of you have plans to go to the fair and go watch the Fray perform at the Georgia National Fairgrounds. Then we go into Saturday and Sunday, more of the same that we have on Friday. Your morning lows are actually forecasted to be the lowest on Sunday morning, sitting at 53 degrees. We could even see those numbers drop a little bit more, but afternoon high temperatures in the mid to upper 70s and virtually no humidity in the forecast. Cannot wait for this forecast as we go into the weekend ahead. And obviously Saturday, another big football weekend. It seems like I keep having to say that each and every weekend. But as we go into the evening hours, I imagine you're really going to have that crisp fall feeling, especially as you go into the nighttime hours when Georgia will be squaring off against the Auburn Tigers over in Jordan-Hare Stadium. So a lot of things going on over the course of this week. The main thing that you need to know is a few opportunities for rain, whether that comes in the form of a shower, maybe a low-end thunderstorm. Like I said, thunderstorm wouldn't be the worst thing because you'll have some heavier rainfall rates, and it can result in a bit more of those rainfall totals that we desperately need in order to get some of these drought conditions out of the picture. And then after that, it looks like we're trading the kind of dreary stretch and at least the warm and muggy stretch for some much cooler and drier temperatures, our most profound cold front that we've seen so far in the fall season. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that we can hold on to some of those below average temperatures into the beginning of next week. So that's going to do it for your extended forecast here this Monday. Be sure to tune in once again 11 a.m. tomorrow for an updated look at what's going to be in store for Thursday. And then after that, I think it's going to be smooth sailing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.